reading this morning, I'm going to take the psalm that we used for our prayer and meditation yesterday. When the Lord brought back the captive to Zion, we were like men who dreamed. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. Then it was said among the nations, "The Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy." Restore our fortunes, O Lord, like streams in the Negev. Those who sow in tears will reap with songs of joy. He who goes out weeping, carrying seed to sow, will return with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with him. Amen. Yeah, I was just saying, that's not a good advert, is it? I stand up and all the children run away. Thank you for coming back. I'm hoping you're going to enjoy this. We'll just in a minute we've got a PowerPoint to show you. These are pictures of my time in Africa, because this is where I promised to come back and tell you what I got up to. That's it. Could I ask you to just dim the lights a bit as well, please? Right, next slide. Right. Now, I have to apologise on this one, because there's obviously... it's going too fast. Can you go back one, please? That's it. Apologies here, because there's obviously something wrong with my camera lens. I look incredibly fat, so it's definitely the camera lens. And this is us arriving in Doha, in Qatar. Fancy plane in there. I need to just tell you that this is the first time I've actually been on a plane. Right, and I go all this way, so it was quite a nerve-wracking time for me. But true to form, I don't do anything normally. I get to this massive airport in Qatar, and it's full of bling. Even the marble tiles on the floor were sparkling. There were lots of things for sale. That yellow thing in the background is a lamp, and it's a teddy bear, but it's as tall as this church building. Everything over the top. And I've never been in such a big airport. I mean, I've been to Manchester and met people and that, but I've never been past where you meet people. And we went in, and there's these massively long travellators, right, one going that way and one coming the other way. And masses of space on either side. And so Jill, that's the one in the middle next to me there, she said, "Come on, we'll get on the travelator." And I thought, what for? I thought, whenever I go anywhere, I don't use a lift, I don't use escalators. I think, exercise, we get on the travelator. Don't get on the elevator things. She says, come on, we'll get on. It's a long way. Oh, I thought, all right. So I get up. But so does everybody else. Everybody was crammed on this narrow little travelator. But not only is it crammed, people are impatient. Excuse me, they've got their bags and they're elbowing past, and can I come past? And I'm getting incensed at this. I think there's all that space over there. If you want to rush, go over there and run up and down. You know, I thought, I'm on my holidays, I'm standing still and nattering to my friends. But no, people were pushing and shoving. By this time, I'd got moved. So by now, I'm like turning almost with my back, turning around to speak to my friends. And I thought, this travelator is going on forever. I couldn't see the end with all the people on. Then I felt something pulling at my skirt. So I looked round. There was nobody there pulling at my skirt. The travelator had come to an end, and I didn't know because I'd got my back to it. And I went flying, and I was flat on my back. And honestly, I thought, quick, get up. Hope nobody's noticed. And then I thought, oh no, I can't get up. Marjorie's on top of me. And that for a split second, I had this vision of everybody on the travelator doing a body pile with me underneath. I thought, I've come all this way around the world, and I've caused utter chaos. So anyway, everybody was rushing around, all the airport officials, picking us up, lifting us up. And Marjorie is only tiny. She's 75-year-old and only this big. And she's fiercely independent. Oh, I can get up myself. And I'm thinking, just get up. I couldn't move. I was pinned down. So I got up and I'm brushing myself down. And then everybody, do you need a medic? No, I don't need a medic. Go away. So all full of embarrassment. So anyway, I thought, I'm not going on the next one. because the argument with my friends was it was still quicker on the travelator than it was to walk. I said, no, I'm not getting on that, I'm walking. So to prove a point, and so I'm at the end. But then Jill got hold of me and said, you're going on the next one. She says, you'll lose your nerve. Nerve on a travelator, ridiculous. Anyway, she crammed me on. And it does move quite quick, so I was taken by surprise at that. Right, I'll not talk so much at the other ones, you're all right. Next slide, please. It should have 3 pictures on, I think, yeah, or maybe 4. This is the house where we stayed at Bethany. That's the outside. Little kitchen area. We had a posh settee and a cupboard. I was very grateful for that cupboard because of the ants. Loads of ants about. And they're so relaxed about it in Africa. If this had been in Oswald so environmental health, you know, I said, kind of a lot of ants around here. Oh, she said, it's all right, just sweep them off. Oh, okay. So we used to store our tea bags and our bread rolls in there and a pot of jam, our breakfast. Right, next slide, please. Oh, this is our bedroom. Sorry, the toilet's up there, and I just sort of, when you put this together, it seems like a good idea. But there's at the left-hand side of the loo, there's like a spray, and I was there the 2 weeks, and I couldn't work out quite what this spray was for, but it's quite powerful. But when we arrived at Mwanza Airport, they had the toilets are like a hole in the floor. I'll not elaborate too much, but so this spray came in very useful because you could, you know, wash the floor when you'd finished. But the other thing about Mwanza that really sort of shocked me, so I went into the ladies, the cubicles had a glass door. It was frosted glass, but it was a glass door. I thought, okay, you're in Africa, who do as the Africans do? The beds, when Jill saw them, she says, we've got princess beds. Do you know what those nets are for? Any idea? What might we have a princess bed for? Mosquito net, yeah. I tell you, every night I was tucked in. Yes. Right, next slide, please. Oh, that's it, thank you. Yeah, they are very close to their animals. This left one, the one with the cows, I don't know quite how they work out where you're going to live. I think they see a piece of land and think, right, well, we'll live in this house. And there's a group of trees, and they put a few branches across. That was the gate, and that's where they put the cows at night. So they're a bit crammed in, but they were quite well behaved. They didn't try to escape. And the cows are slightly different than our cows. They have like a little hump on their back. If you look closer, you can see that. And the hen here has some little chickens. And if we were at a prayer time, you'd be sitting there and half a dozen chickens would wander through. And you think, oh, where'd they come from? Who do they belong to? But nobody bats an eyelid. They're just, you know, living with their animals. And this was a lady and her family. She seemed to have quite a few children, but they quite like having the picture taken, quite want to, you know, pose for us. But very, very humble dwellings, just a one-roomed house. They would all live in there. Next slide, please. Yeah, now this is the one I had difficulty with. This was the village. And I felt somehow that I was almost betraying them, that I was taking the picture because of the absolute poverty. You can see the roofing, it's all like a bit homes made. I think it probably looks like what I would build if it was up to me. And they had a bit of produce if they'd been to Mwanza, and they would sell it at the front door. But not nicely finished, you know, just all roughly finished. And I think the next slide will give us a street view. Yeah, that was the whole street. So that was the village. Very dry ground, and they've no electricity at all, no running water in the village. So it just made you, you know, be really grateful for what we have. Next slide, please. Now this is interesting. This is the local primary school. That's the outside. This is an outside, and the playground area just marked by a patch of stones. On the right-hand side, they've got boulders. Basically, that's all they had to sit on in that classroom. And the blackboard that you can see looks like it's not very clean, but it's not really a blackboard. It's black paint on the wall, and there are holes in it, and it's not even flat where the plaster's crumbled off. And the class sizes, they have about 100 in the class size, and the girls were telling me, she says, if you get to the back few rows, it's quite squashed. She says, you're very near to each other. She says, you can sometimes nod off, you can lean on the person in front and have 40 winks. Now, we might think, that's terrible, you need your education. But they get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, carry a litre of water for the teachers, walk to school, and then they have to sweep the classroom out. That obviously hasn't been swept this week. And then they have to have the lesson in Swahili for the primary school, and then they have to walk back again. So they do have long, hard days. Right, next slide, please. Now, this is Bethany. That is the teacher's block. That's one of the two of the classrooms, and that's inside. Now, I think they're really ingenious. When I saw these buildings at Bethany, I thought, wow, this is ingenious, because they've got a veranda at one side, and that's the side that's facing the sun. So I think it's actually north-facing, because we're south of the equator. The back, the return of the building was in the shade of the building itself, so that side didn't need a veranda. They've got tiled floors. You needed it to keep you cool. You know, if you was really hot, it was really good to kick your shoes off and just think, cold. Something cool to touch. The windows were like lats, strips, and they had a grill behind to stop the insects coming in, so you could open them and close them to let the air through. Now, this young lad, the third one on the right, you notice he's a bit taller than the others. His feet are sticking out under the desk. He's Muldo. He's 15, yet he's in a year 7 class. Because in Africa, you can't go to school unless you can speak Swahili. You can't go to secondary school unless you speak English. So that young lad's education, there's been some gaps in it, probably too poor to send to school. You've got to have a pair of shoes. They won't let you in if you've no shoes on. And for the most part, they are actually wearing shoes there. They wear flip-flops. And if you go in the market stalls, they'll have a pile of flip-flops on a plastic sheet, but they don't even look new. They certainly look dusty, and yet it's, you know, what you buy, what children have to wear. Next one, please. This was the view from the school. I just really appreciated this. On the horizon, that's actually the sea, Lake Victoria. It's so big, it's like a small sea, really, but it's fresh water. And those are the cattle they wandered about and past your front door every morning. And as you can see, there are trees. But the ground itself was hard. The grass was bald, patchy, very arid, because it was very dry. But they do have a rainy season twice a year, apparently. Next slide, please. This is just some inside the school. Next slide, please. Right, evening and morning prayers. So every day we gathered outside on the steps of this building opposite the playground. The playground doesn't have a slide, it's just a climbing frame, a few swings. And every day the children would take part. This is why I asked Sebastian, thank you again, to help me this morning. One of the children would actually do the meeting. They'd stand up and, say, praise the Lord. Everybody would say amen. And if they were cheeky, praise the Lord again. Make sure she got everybody's attention. And it's very humbling to see young children leading this service. And they would literally say, right, you're doing the notices today. We're doing prayer, hymn 23, hymn 24, and you do this prayer and you do that prayer. And that was it. There was no written list. And it ran smoothly. Everybody got up at the right time and said the right thing. It was very impressive. But as I say, you'd get the animals passing through as well, which was really odd. And then this is night time. At 7 o'clock, it started to go dark. By 7:30, it was like midnight. Really, really dark. Next slide, please. Right, I chose to call this Women Who Uphold the Sky because of a book I read when I was first training in my teaching, and it said throughout the world, whatever culture you were in, women do the hard work. Don't we, women? But they really, really do in Africa. This African lady's got a baby on her back, strapped round. So not only does she carry the water, do the cooking, and there's no ovens, no electricity, it's all on charcoal or wood burners, and carries a baby with her. And these are the other women carrying the water to and from. There's always a stream of people to and fro into the lake to carry the water. And those tubs are full, and they are heavy. And this young lad had a bike, so his bike was loaded up, and he wanted to pose for, yeah, wait a minute, he said, and he actually he wasn't falling off, he was posing for the camera. But they're all happy, this was highlight of the day. But doing this every day, bringing the water. Next slide, please. There's no washing machines in Africa, so we had to wash by hand. Now, the African women, they're amazing. We were just in awe. They had these tubs, and they'd one for washing, one for rinsing, and one for a second rinsing. And they had a bar of soap, only a tiny bar. Soap is rationed. And they were fair going. Their action was just like this. I thought their hands looked like a washing machine or like a train going round. There were suds everywhere. Everything done. Then me and Jill came to have a go. Honestly, you would have disowned us. This soap squirted out my hand. It was on the floor, so I'm picking all the bits out, and soap had gone again. We couldn't get any lather. And then for some strange reason, Jill decided, actually, we've been here a week, we're going to wash the sheets. Wash the sheets? Are you mad? So she's pulling out. I thought, right, how are we going to do this? We've only got a bucket. She says, we'll be fine. She says, the African ladies do it, we'll be fine. So we get there, and we're shoving all this sheet in a bucket, and we'd actually to go to the lake to do the sheets because there'd been a water cut. So we were all by the lake, and the young lad got the water for us, waded in and got the buckets. And then we thought, now we've got to wring it out. I thought, right, come on, Joan, you can do this. Use your brain, think. So I said, right, you get that end, I'll get that end. And the two of us are twisted. We were really excited by ourselves. The African ladies were like, oh, look at these two. We let them out. And then we slung it over the branch of a tree because we didn't want it to touch the floor again. So I think the poor sheet must have been more black than what it was when it set off. But we tried. And this is Jill. I have to tell you, she's like big and strong carrying this water. She's showing off again. She said, I want you to take me photographs. She said, I want to have a go at that. She couldn't pick it up to put it on her head. It took 4 of us to get it up onto her. Oh, quick, hurry up, take a photo, quick, right, take it off now, take it. So I thought, what you like? But I'm even softer because I wouldn't even try. Next slide, please. Oh, this is building African style. They're putting up a new building block, and this is for the teachers because as the children have come over here, well, the young ladies, they've got the qualifications, they're trained, they're going back. They now need a separate building just to give them that little bit of status as teachers, different from the children. And they make their own bricks, cut them out of the clay. They have a little, not little, it's as big as me, a machine to cut the squares out. Then they stack them up and dry them in the sun. And then they go with buckets of water to wet them again so they don't dry out too quickly. And then they dig the footings out, and I didn't see anything mechanical. It's all pick and shovel. And then they put the hardcore down. This was the day they were damping down the hardcore. Right, everybody, we need this flattened. They put some loud music on, dance music, and all the children who were not busy working, cooking or anything, were invited onto this building ground, and they were dancing away and stamping their feet and laughing. But, it's amazing it worked. But they were there all day. I thought, well, I'll have a go at this. Right, I had enough now. It was too hot. So I did have a go. I lasted about 3 minutes. So they do work hard. And this pile of earth that they dig out, again, no machinery, so everybody has to take part. 4 and 5-year-olds, you carry 2 buckets. 6 and 7-year-olds, you were on 5 buckets. And so it went on. 15 and 16, 5 barrel loads. They had wheelbarrows. And everybody, they didn't need telling twice. They just went along and moved it. So each week, they'd just take a time, it would be the weekends because they'd be at school during the week. So they all worked very hard. Next slide, please. Well, this is a bit living close to the animals. Yeah. Loads of goats. very often you're coming out your house, there'll be a young lad coming past with his goat. I think, excuse me, this is the Bethany family home. Where are you going with your goats? Just passing through. And on this right-hand side, I tried to get a picture of this because it was the bonniest goat I'd ever seen, and it was like a miniature donkey. It had a little tuft of hair, tan-coloured, a little tuft of hair, like a little, what they call it, mane down its back. This stripe went right down to his tail. I thought, that's a beautiful goat. And then is it gecko, how do you pronounce it? Gecko. These were in the house that we stayed in, so the fish net up the walls. And I think, right, I said, what's that? And Sophia says, oh, she says, that's all right, they're our friends. They don't bite. I thought, right, don't panic about it, you know. Get on with your neighbours. And this little character used to eat the midges and stuff. But they were in your bedrooms and everywhere, up the walls. And they looked a bit like, reminded me of like wine gums. You know when you get a wine gum sort of snake and you used to pull it as a kid? Every time I looked at it, I was dying to give it a stretch and see if it would stretch. The right-hand side, mice. Every day outside your front door. I can't call it a lawn, it was a bit of tufty grass. You'd have these mice. But they look really big and fluffy. And I sort of thought, you know, you didn't think environmental health as we would in Twistle. They're just like, oh yeah, that's just the mice, never mind the mice. And then this character on the left, it's the most ugliest bird I've ever seen in my life. Honest to goodness, he's got gangly legs. No comment about my legs. Gangly legs like a heron. When they fly, they dangle behind. Massive wingspan. When they stretch, wow, really, really wide. Beak, a bit like a pelican. And then this ugly sort of purple thing that turkeys have. I thought it really got the short straw, you know, for looks did this bird. But again, you know, we would go, oh, get away, you ugly thing. But no, the Africans welcome them. When you go to market, they don't have refuse vans coming round taking your rubbish. They pile it all up. These birds are your refuse collectors. So they, you know, say, no, we need those birds. So they really work really, you know, close to the environment, work hand in hand with it. Next slide, please. Food. Right, if you just go back one, then you can see the fish stew. At lunchtime, right, it was either cabbage or sometimes we got meat, which we think was goat. And then one day twice we got fish. And I took the lid, I thought, put the lid back on again. I thought, this is not going to go down well. I thought, don't be silly. The Africans eat this every day, I'll be fine. So I chopped the head and the tail off mine and then put it on my plate and then had some rice with it. My colleagues, right, not eating that, not going there. It'd be fine, just leave the tail and the eyes in the pan. No, I'm not eating that. And it was really, really strong. I've never tasted fish as strong in my life. I don't know if you've ever had fresh tuna, that's a strong taste. But this is really strong as well. And the children, you see, they eat this, the Africans. The children like the heads. They're like a bit of a treat. I think, pass. And I took a photograph of this banana. I love the bananas. It was almost like a prison. They were really thick. You know, our supermarkets are so posh. If they're not long and bendy, we don't have them. And they're as sweet as if they're overripe, but they're not overripe. It's still firm. And as there's no shops or anything, I thought, I'll bring William a present back. I'll bring him a banana. But by the time I got home, it was well and properly black. And these were the oranges that looked yellow, but they were tasty inside. And the lady on the right, bless her, she was doing all the cooking. But she couldn't speak English and she couldn't speak Swahili. She just had a tribal language. And she would come to the prayer meeting every day and she'd just sort of smile. And it's just so difficult trying to communicate with her, but she was really lovely. Right, next slide. Now, this is games Bethany style. The top left, they're playing drafts. Now, how do you play drafts when you've no drafts? They've got an old checkered board, which the paint's wearing off. They use bottle tops. How do you tell which is which when you just both using the bottle tops? Because it's rare that you get two alike. One that way up and one that way up. I thought, that's ingenious. These kids are so inventive. And this is football. Sebastian, how would you like that? It's a bundle of paper tied up with some string and then kept on the string so nobody can pinch it. When you grow up with 130 brothers and sisters, you have to be careful. So that was his football practice. And then this little boy was called Josh, and he loved paper aeroplanes. I don't know how it came about the first day, but Jill made a paper aeroplane, and after that he wouldn't leave her alone. Every morning he opened the front door, he was sat there, paper aeroplane, and he just wanted somebody to play with him, just sending this aeroplane across. Yeah, simple entertainment. You see, no video games or anything like that, no electricity. Next slide, please. This was the beach, and that was it. Very narrow. It was a lot of small stones and shale. There was only a tiny patch of beach. This left-hand side is a dry riverbed. It's a bit faint on the photograph, but on the horizon it meets Lake Victoria. So in the rainy season that fills up. That's actually a rice field. Rice in Africa, they dig it out, okay, and when the rainy season comes, they plant rice. Now, isn't that amazing? And on the right, a mango tree. I thought we love mangoes, they're quite an exotic fruit for us. Now, how can mangoes grow in such a dry place? Well, they fruit just at the same time as the rainy season, so that's how they get mangoes, because they need a lot of water. Next slide. This is Lake Victoria. I was very privileged. Every day we had a walk to Lake Victoria, but we needed it. The breeze from the lake was really cooling. It was really nice, and it was round the actual orphanage as well. But during the hours of 12 and 3, it's like the wind died down. I think the sun must have been overhead. Honestly, I was in tortoise mode. I couldn't move. Just to walk from here to there was exhausting. So after a couple of days, that was it. Between 12 and 3, we stayed in. Sometimes my colleagues would go and have 40 winks. It was just too hot. But I was able to read, and fortunately I was able to read my Bible as well. Next slide, please. Well, these are the teachers, Jessica, Emma and Sophia, tucking into the rice that we had left. I'm afraid my colleagues didn't appreciate rice every day. You got rice and kidney bean sort of soup, the stuff we've made when they've been to visit us. But you know, God was really gracious to me and really prepared me, because before I went I got a real love for rice, and I was starting eating packet rice for my lunchtime at school. So I was tucking into this rice, and my friends said, "Oh no, I can't stand it anymore." Oh, I said, "All right, then I'll just have a bit more." So I wasn't hungry at all, but I ate a lot of rice. But the girls came and finished off whatever we left. Next slide. This is Dennis. You might remember Dennis. They came across with the first group of the choir, and he's grown. He's a young man now. I couldn't believe it. And I thought, I wonder if he remembered me. But he actually came and to say goodbye. I didn't see him in the holiday because they sat off for school at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we go to prayer meeting, and they didn't came back till 4 o'clock, and then they go to work. The young lady that I thought she was one of the carers, because she made our bread every day, and she was actually, then I saw her in her school uniform. She was coming home and then making bread. And on the night before we went, she said, "I'm going to make you some fresh bread." She said, "and then you can wrap it." She wanted, she's thinking of us travelling and wanted to take it with us. It wasn't quite like the bread we eat. It was quite heavy. It's more like a ginger cake consistency. But it tasted of bread. It tasted really good. But we couldn't eat two. We used to share one. Thank you. Oh yeah, that's me and Jill, a selfie. Thank you. You've done very well, you children. Thank you very much. I'm just going to say a little bit now and perhaps ask you some questions. Right, Bethany started 24 years ago. Right, when two evangelists saw a great need, and he gave them a great vision. What's a vision? Do we know? Anybody tell me, what is a vision? Yeah, like a dream. Yeah. I don't know if there's a technical definition, but I think a dream is something you see when you're asleep, and a vision is something you see when you're awake. I don't know if that's a good definition. Oh no, a good question. Like the house that I showed you that we lived in, there are blocks like that. Okay, there's a block that's like a hall and a cooking place. They're just separate blocks because Beth. No, that's the village. Yes. So this is why the village children want to come to Bethany, want to come to the school. But it is for orphans or for very, very deprived. And if they're deprived in Africa, they really are deprived. You know, and like the carers come in and they want their children to come because they can see the difference. Because we have taps at Bethany. Not always connected to the water, I find out. But yes, they have taps. So it is really like a beacon. People want to come. But again, it's finances and how many we can support. And the water use from the lake? Yeah. No. The lake, when we went, the first Sunday we went and walked by the lake, and it was like we would go to Rivington Park. There were loads of people there, women still doing the washing, kids on bicycles, and the bicycles on the back seat, they're, you know when some have a little parcel shelf on the back of the bike, it was like padded, because the bikes were the taxis. And it's a really funny sight, seeing a little skinny kid riding this bike and a rather large lady behind who was having a taxi ride. So the bikes were there, and they had motorbikes, and the motorbikes were taxis as well. But the driver had a crash helmet, but his passengers didn't. And again, if you were only skinny and 3 of you needed a ride, 3 of you got on behind. Right? There's no health and safety or anything like that. You just pays your money and takes your choice, as they say. So these bikes were all down at the lake. The cows were down at the lake. Kids were swimming in the lake, and it didn't look clean. I thought, I'm not even going to... Well, the water, not only that, we eat the fish out of the water. Remember the fish? I'm eating that fish. I'm thinking, should I be eating this? They're still alive, I'll eat it. The water is pumped, because it started 24 years ago, might even be 25, I'm not too sure. Firemen went out and put a pipeline in. So they've got a pump and they've got filters and whatever else. But the pump keeps breaking down because it's 24 years old. So it's like we need to be thinking now about the next step. Where do we go from here? Electricity is supplied by solar panels, but they don't have enough. We were having power cuts. Right now, that really freaked me out quite a bit, because I've never experienced pitch dark before, total black. And I know it sounds like a cliche, but you say, I can't see my hand. I thought, I know my hand's there, I can feel it, but I just could not see it. Really, really hard, that one. No, you're right, and thank you for asking. And you please, anybody wants any questions, just ask. So the vision is for Tanzania, right, that it's going to be changed. You know, a respected speaker, Ravi Zachariah, you might have heard of him. I've heard him speak. Have you heard of him? Yeah. Heard him speak at Keswick, and he said, Africa is in such a state. He said, I used to think all the NGOs should go out there, right? He said, it's a waste of time unless they change their attitude. I thought, don't tell me Ravi Zachariah's given up on Africa. I thought, this is bad. You know, this is really bad. But the only way is through education. And this is what's happening with Bethany. The thinking is being transformed. You might have noticed that there are more girls in the pictures than there are boys, because it's like male domination. Husbands, respecting children that are in, husbands are not very kind to their wives, and that's normal, that's the culture. So we're trying to get young boys in, but we need more women so that they understand and how to respect and how to live with the women. So hopefully this will change. Now the vision is these children going up will in future years teach their children. The whole of Tanzania could change. And God is bigger than our vision. That could really change and change the whole of Africa. Okay. So this is basically linking it to harvest. It's like these evangelists went across and sowed some seeds. And like in the parable of the sower, you will reap 30-fold, 60-fold, 100-fold. Now I think Bethany's not yet at 100-fold. There's still work to do. So what does an evangelist do? Who can tell me that? What does an evangelist do? Using all these words. You know, I thought Mick Willie will be here this morning. He'll tell me all my answers, and he's not here. Thank you. Shares the gospel. So an evangelist would sow the seeds of the word and people believe. So what does a missionary do? Does anybody know that one? What does a missionary do? Different worlds, doing the same thing again, planting seeds, people coming to know the Lord. And the other one, I thought, what does a teacher do? Teach things. In a harvest type situation, you're planting seeds of knowledge in children. And if that teacher has a word seasoned with the Holy Spirit, hopefully praying for students so that none would be lost. And what do mums do? Do mums sow seeds? Be mums. Oh, heck. What? We will not repeat that, Sebastian. Mums sowing seeds into the children, caring, loving, nurturing, and they see the fruit of that seed as the children grow. So you probably think of many others. As church members, we are all sowing seed into the lives of individuals, perhaps into the lives of strangers, and all reaping a harvest. When I was reading this morning, I just looked at verse 6 in Psalm 126. He who goes out weeping, carrying seed to sow. I thought, why would he be weeping if he's going to sow seed? Is he thinking, these seeds are a bit mouldy? I thought, no, I don't think it was that. I think going out weeping, when God fills your heart with compassion, seeing the need of others, like these two evangelists that first went across, seeing a great need, you think this is a great need. These people need. It might be a physical need. They might be poor. It very probably is all how we all need Jesus. We need our lives changing and transforming. And this, in a sense, is what I've written by the side of my Bible, the mystery, one of the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. So we go out with this burden, with this sorrow, but we return with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with him. So when the evangelist returns and people have turned to God, yes, party in heaven. Yeah. When the missionary returns and sends letters, people are turning to God. God is answering prayer. A big yes in God's kingdom. And when you're a teacher and your student gets it and they come to you and say, please will you pray for me, miss? You think, yes. Of course you have to, of course I will. Mary Somber, but inside you're going, yes. And when mums and dads see the children growing up, or Sunday school teachers, and see how well you've developed, how much your understanding has grown, it's a big yes. A yes from Jesus, a yes from the Lord. Right, so what I want to ask you today, you always get a request at the end. Well, you do when I'm here. The request is, I want you to pray for Bethany. Right, as marvellous as what it is, everything hangs by a thread. The Bible says the devil prowls about like a roaring lion. It could be crushed, it could be lost. Children are the same everywhere, here and in Africa. They see things, they want the bling, they want the fancy clothes, they want the lifestyle. But to understand that things are different, please saturate Bethany with prayer. Keep Bethany children in your thoughts all the time. Just pray. For all these churches all over Hindburn are praying for Bethany, then God will honour our word. Yes? They do. Yeah, and when they do come to this country, the English, remember, is the third language, and yet they're studying, they're doing A-levels, they're doing the degree, and then they're going back. It is hard. We went over and we relieved them, so we took some classes and they did all the paperwork. That's what we did. And they were still exhausted. Teaching is a physically demanding role, and especially when you've no water, no electricity, no basic home comforts. But praise God, I felt a little bit of personal testimony. I felt it's been quite life-changing for me, because Africa is so slow. You can't rush. It's too hot. And the upshot of all this is, in a nutshell, I've actually given my notice in at work. Now, and the government have moved the goalposts for when you can retire. So I still have a bit further to go. I'm not actually retiring age. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm at this crossroads. So I am praying. So I would also appreciate your prayers for me, that I can hear clearly from God and get the direction doing what he wants me to do. You know, it's just like I've had enough of this. I want to live for God. I want to do what he wants me to do. Okay, my dear brothers and sisters in Christ, thank you for listening. You've been very patient. Thank you very much. Amen.